Thanks very much for that, Stuart. I hope everybody can see my screen. Yeah, one of the most common questions we get asked by coaches is, what is best practice for coaching players of mixed ability? So I hope over the next few minutes I'm going to give you, the coaches, some considerations to take on board when you're asking yourself that question, and what would you perceive then as best practice in your coaching to work with all players. So I suppose I'd like to think that everybody on this call at some stage maybe remembers just going outside onto the road, or maybe out to the backyard, or just meeting up with your friends and picking two teams, using goals as goalposts, and the group of people that were there that could range from age 8, your youngest brother, to age 14, your next door neighbor. And everybody just actually picked two teams, and the game became the teacher. So that all those players there, every one of those could be potentially different ages, different sizes, and different ability. But the one thing that they had in common was that they wanted to just play the game. So I think as coaches, we have to try and bring our coaching back to try and mirror all those games in practice in our game of camogie when we're coaching, and let the game become the teacher. So moving on to potentially when we maybe out watching games, and that's what the players want. When we go to the games, sometimes this is what we get. We might have coaches instructing the kids, we might have parents instructing the kids, and ultimately the players, they just want to play the game. So we want to try in our coaching, give all the players a game environment where they get to learn the skills of the game through the game, and the game then becomes the teacher. So how do we do that? I suppose we want to ensure that we try and change our current coaching practice where and when necessary. So in later times, or there used to be, everybody be standing in a line waiting for a turn. So you can see there the basketball coach, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids waiting for his goal, and ultimately the only person that's actually smiling there is the coach. If you look at all the other kids, they're probably waiting, standing around, getting bored, maybe not getting the opportunity to play. Where if we look at the bottom picture on this screen, this is where they get to learn and develop. So why do we train one way and then maybe expect them to play the other? So again, iterations we have to bring to our own coaching practice. The question around mixability, should we split them, should we not? And I suppose if we bring it back to the normal world, if we bring any of our players or anything to a fun zone, or if we get them a PlayStation or something like that, everybody that gets the PlayStation, they get the exact same PlayStation. We don't ask for an advanced PlayStation or a beginner PlayStation. Everybody looks for the most current, up-to-date one. When we send them to a fun zone, everybody goes into the exact same fun zone. But what happens then within the fun zone is all the players try different things. They'll get through some areas, they might fall, they'll come back, they'll go again, and they'll learn. Some people might get through the zone quicker than others, but everybody wants to continually have a go and do it because they're challenging themselves, there's fun involved, and there's learning. How many times maybe as a player went into it, came out, fell, crying, okay, to forget about it, to go again and to learn. The same with the PlayStation. Everybody gets the same PlayStation, but again, there's different games then to suit the different abilities. So we want to try and come up with games that suit all abilities. So that if we look at the PlayStation model, that there's lives, everybody gets a go, you get to different levels. You might get to level 3 one day, but you'll keep practicing, and then you move on to level 4. So we want to try and ensure that the coaching practices that we bring to the pitch replicate this type of environment that players enjoy outside the sport, to try and replicate that then within the game. Even from an adult point of view, anybody maybe that watches The Cube or watches the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, everybody goes in to play the exact same game. But you have an opportunity of a trial run, you have a number of lives, you have a simplifier. All those options are there for the different people that are going in to try that game. And some will get through the different levels and others won't, but everybody's going into the same game. Same maybe with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You have phone a friend, you can go 50-50, you can ask the audience. Again, that's a game that's given options for everybody to be able to play the game. So if we can bring that to our coaching practice in the games that we put out, we're going to be able to ensure that the game becomes the teacher and that everybody that's playing the game will enjoy the game at their level. And that's the challenge that we as coaches have to try and challenge. So within these groups, every team, no matter how old they are, you're going to have girls that could be high achievers, very competitive, always looking to maybe win. You could have players in your group that have low motivation for whatever reason. You could have players in your group that have low confidence, and you could have players in your group of different athletic ability. So we have to try and tailor an environment where we can challenge everybody within the group while also develop everyone. How we do that then is through the practice and the sessions that we design. So the iCoach Kids Pledge is a research-based formula for us as coaches to be able to develop our players no matter the age, no matter the level. So if we can bring these 10 principles into our coaching, we're going to develop every player. So we be player-centered or we be child-centered. So everything we do is about the play. Be holistic, and what we mean by holistic is that we think about the whole person, not just about what they're able to do skill-wise, but we could have a player that might be lacking in an element of skill, but she's very passionate. We could have another player who mightn't be as fit as we'd like to be, but we know she's very committed, and we know that she's very respectful to what we do. So they're the other areas that we're trying to develop, not just the actual skill of the game. We try and be inclusive in everything that we do. We make everything fun and safe. We prioritize the love for the sport above learning the sport. So even if we have players of all mixed ability, we want them going home from every session loving the game, and we want them coming to every session loving the game. So the skills then and the learning of the skills, all that will happen naturally when they love the sport. Focus on the foundational skills. So again, try and get the basics right. Don't try and progress anyone on too far without them having the basics, and ensure that when they have the basics, you can build on that. Engage with the parents positively. This is very important when it comes to ensuring that each player is developing. Communication with the player, communication with the parents, and again, all it is a communication piece, or engaging with them, letting them know what you're trying to do as a coach over a calendar year or over a season. Plan progressive programs. Okay, so we're trying to look at the challenges that arise, try and plan your program that answers all these challenges. You use different methods to enhance learning, and use competition in a development way. So again, we see maybe some teams are all about maybe winning the Féile, or they're going to do this at minor or whatever. Keep trying to develop everything you do. All competitions in a development way. So if we looked at just doing everything in straight lines and keeping everyone in their comfort zone, or do we mix everything up? So we can see here on the left-hand side, this is perceived how we coach, versus the right-hand side, this is how to learn. So we have to try and make sure that we get a balance of both of those. So what does that look like on a practical session? So everything we do with our team can be fully, at the start of every session and at the end of every session, everything should be fully integrated. So if you look at the top of the line, we have an open activity. So this is an activity or a game that you design that will be the same activity for everyone. On the second, then you have a parallel activity. Again, this is the same type of activity, but different groups play in different ways at different levels. Okay? And then the final one on the top line is a separate engagement activity. So this is where you'd pull out possibly 3 or 4 players, work in a particular area of the game for 6 or 7 minutes, whatever it may be, and put them back into the game. Pull out another 4 or 5 different players. You could be working on another area, put them back into the game. So everybody goes through this engagement with you as a coach, not just players that are strong, not just players that are developing. This is specific to a group of players that need to work on a particular skill, or a group of players that need to focus on an aspect of their game, maybe at older levels. So that could be forward movement, defensive shape, depending on what age group you're working with. Below the line again, it's a modified activity. Same activity, but different instructions, rules, area, or equipment. So you can have everybody playing the same small-sided games, but you might tell some players that they can only strike off their left-hand side. You can tell other players that they can only, they're allowed solo. You can tell other players whatever the modification is, that's up for you to decide, because you're looking at your team. And again, sometimes that can be challenging, but that's where then you're trying to embed the principles with your players, that they're passionate, respectful, committed, resilient, creative, and responsible. So if you're giving a player that they're not allowed solo and they say, why not? You're trying to then coach them to say, there's going to be times in the game you won't get the opportunity to solo. So we want you to be able to understand when to solo and when not to solo. And again, on the bottom line, the bottom one then, again, it's an open and same activity for everyone. So on any general night or given night, if you're working from the start fully integrated, working on the top line or working on the bottom line and finishing, you're going to be having a session that's inclusive of everyone, giving everyone the opportunity to learn and everyone the opportunity to develop. Then a few small tips then around working with everyone. Know your players and their abilities. Get to know their parents. Plan your sessions to have various levels of each. Create an environment where everyone can develop all your players. For younger kids, you don't really want to split. They will know very quickly that they're not as good as others. And once that confidence gets taken away, it's very hard to build it back. For the slightly older age groups, they again need to be taking part in the same activities in a game-based environment. And the same type of match. So if you're using some of the activities from the previous slide into your session at all these age groups, you're going to be developing them all as players. With adult teams, we have players of varying different abilities on your team, yet we never split at training. The only time we might split is at units. So we might get the defenders working in one area, the forwards working on another area, and that's generally what happens. But within that group of defenders, we could have strong defenders and developing defenders. So again, we have to look at what we're doing. And again, we don't seem to split at the older age groups. So why should we do it at the younger age groups? Let's try and find a formula within your session plans that best fit all your players. Have suitable activities for all levels. So again, that's like the PlayStation formula. Find games that have levels for everyone to develop. Plan what you're going to say. Adapt the same learning to suit all abilities. So again, no matter what you're covering, everyone's trying to learn the same. And this is one that get more coaches involved with your team to share the workload and support to help develop all players. So the more coaches you have involved within your team gives you more opportunity to coach the player, no matter who she is, that everybody continually gets that opportunity to learn and develop. So the answer is, there is no one answer, as it may differ by the age, it may differ by your group numbers, it may differ by the type of coach you're working with. But if you can take some of the principles that we're after outlining there and bring those into your coaching session and apply them week on week, session on session, you will see improvement across all your players. So I'd like to thank you all for listening. Again, we've a small few resources there that we'll be sharing. There's 3 excellent conversations with Liam Moggan, Paul Kilgannon and Paddy Butler, who focus solely around coaching the player. So no matter who the player is, they're focusing in on coaching the player. So I'd like to thank you all for listening. We'll share the different resources with everyone.